Hey guys, welcome back to Big Riff Energy. I wanted to give you an update here. I don't want this to be overly dramatic, but Big Riff Energy is going to be going away for a while. And, you know, I don't want this to be an I'm quitting YouTube thing. The channel's not doing good enough. Like a lot of these maybe more testicularly challenged influencers or whatever you want to call them have been doing lately. But I also just didn't want to leave you guys hanging with like no channel and no explanation, especially considering how much you guys have been doing for me and my wife lately. So yeah, we're doing a new Spirit Adrift album. I'm gonna be focusing on that and also helping my wife get better. That's basically it. I could maybe also juggle the podcast, but I don't want those first two priorities to suffer in any way. And honestly, if I was juggling that and other stuff and the podcast, like I'm going to be giving you half ass, not as good content, anyway. So that's it. Yeah, I don't want it to be dramatic. I just wanted to come on here and say thank you for everything you guys have been doing. Big Riff Energy will be on pause for a while. The Riffing for Hire stuff will be on pause for a while. Basically, anything that takes time for me, like what do they call it? Labor. Anything that would require like labor hours for me is going away. If it's not the new Spirit Adrift record and helping out my wife, it's we knew going into this thing because we had spoken to people who have gone through this thing before, that it would be a challenge and it would probably be like the hardest thing that we've done to date, which is saying something for both my wife and myself. But the first round of treatment was even more of a challenge than we anticipated. So I'm kind of readjusting. Again, I thought I could kind of like keep this going with the other stuff that's going on. I just can't do it. It's just not going to work. The good news, we are recording new Spirit Adrift album. I say this half joking, half serious. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of like, I was reading, I was reading comments about Mastodon and all of their albums and how it seemed to every time they go in the studio, it would coincide with some horrific events in all of their personal lives. And I started thinking about the Spirit Adrift albums, and I was like, huh. And so I'm kind of half like juggling the idea of maybe this being the last Spirit Adrift album. Doesn't mean like the band's gonna go away or whatever. We'll see what happens. The thing with this cancer deal is it just like blows up your whole life. And I've been trying to live one day at a time for a long time, for over 10 years, like really, really practicing that. But then something like this happens and it's like, it's on a different level. I've heard people talk about even just living life in short bursts. Like, what can I do in the next 20 minutes? So I'm kind of there. I'm trying to not think too much about the future, but this might be the last Spirit Adrift album. So I really want it to be like the best thing we've ever done. And I think the songs are the best songs that Spirit Adrift has ever had. But I also just want to make sure the production itself, like I want it to be on like some Pink Floyd type of level. So I'm focusing on that. Uh, this first type of treatment that Nicole is going through will be finished, or will at least be assessing the situation around November. I don't know when the Spirit Adrift album will be done being tracked, but maybe around the same time. So I would like to come back on here in November and at least do the best albums of 2025, because I was actually pleasantly shocked by how many albums I loved this year. And yes, I'm going to do it in November, early November, to piss everybody off that there's still 10 more albums coming out. So I would like to show back up here in November and at least do that. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody that has helped us during this time. I was just in Little Rock on Friday. I don't even have the words to explain how I feel about that. But I just want to thank everybody in Arkansas that was involved in the benefit show for Nicole. It was like one of the, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to try to describe it, but it was amazing and uh, horrible, like everything in between. But no, it was great. So thank you, man, to CT from Wake who put that together, and Jeff from Wake who really kind of like curated it musically, and Paul Bearer who jumped on it without question, and the other bands that played. 16 came from California to do it, played an incredible set, and Sea Hag, one of my Arkansas favorites, and Dirt Mother, another one of my Arkansas favorites. I want to thank all of y'all and everybody I spoke to and all my really family in Arkansas. I want to thank all my family that I've met through this channel who have helped us in so many different ways. Um, there's been people stepping up that have been through the kind of stuff that we're going through, and it's just been so helpful. And you know who you are, but like, man, Jason from Suffering Hours, Steve from Crip Sermon, Kirk, who I met on through this podcast. Yeah, Dave at 20 Bucks Spin, just everybody that's been through what we're going through, that stepped up to help us out. And man, that's it. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah, this will be gone for a while, but not forever. It's not goodbye, it's see you later. You know what I mean? And if you want to donate to Nicole's GoFundMe, there's a link down there. If you want to buy uh like digital albums from Neon Nightmare or Spirit Adrift, there's links down there. But I'm having to retire briefly from mailing stuff out and selling gear and doing the riffs for hire and stuff like that. Oh, and thank you to everybody that got a riff for hire thing. We raised a lot of money with that, and it was a lot of fun. So appreciate that. Uh, Pretty soon we're gonna have a new Spirit Adrift record that's like really, really gonna be different, like in a lot of ways. The three of us that were there at the studio today, uh, it's gonna be different. But I had somebody ask me, an old friend who's really intense, or no, I'm sorry, it was a new friend who I've met through here, ask me, all the lyrics and stuff on these albums, it seems like you're putting so much into it. Do you feel like it's taking too much out of you sometimes? And I'm like, no, it's like so cathartic, and it's I don't know what I would do if I didn't have the outlet to do that, you know. But I almost feel like that's sort of reached a point of diminishing returns, like what I was talking about with the Mastodon thing. Like every time I start undergoing this process, it's something horrible happens, not just for me, but for like anybody involved. And then it all gets funneled into the music. And, I think maybe that's why Spirit Adrift seems to resonate with mostly with people who have been through really, really tough stuff. But to quote Razor Ramon, hard work pays off, dreams come true. Hard times don't last, but hard guys do. I think he said bad times, but either way it works. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do, I'm gonna do the best riff of 1985 just to have like a normal send-off here. Technically the best riff of 1985 without question is the intro riff from Money for Nothing by Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler. I'm not going to even attempt to play it. That's a riff that if I had gotten into that when I was like 12, 13, 14, when I was really, really, really dug in on guitar and had no friends and no social life before I started like running wild and stuff, if I'd have really dug in on that riff, I bet I could play it exactly like him. But I have never dug in on that riff, and I don't think I ever will, because it would probably take a while for me to be satisfied with the intricacies or whatever. But That's one of the best riffs ever written. You could, if some older guy was yelling about how it's the best riff ever, I wouldn't argue with him. I'll put it that way. But this is not dad riff energy, it's big riff energy. So the big riff energy best riff of 1985 is a band called Trouble from an album called The Skull, which I was introduced to by Jimmy Bauer. Thank you, Jimmy. And I think my friend George, shout out to George too. He was screaming at me about The Skull and shit when I was 17 or so. But it's this riff. It's from the song Prayer for the Dead, but it's not the stuff that I paid tribute to in Earthbound. It's the next one. It's this one right here. Make sure this song. Hell yeah, it's so heavy. It's 1985. Black Sabbath and that kind of stuff is sort of like come in and out of fashion, and bands like Vitus and Candlemass and Pentagram and Trouble are making sure that people remember. You know, it's basically Black Sabbath, and something cool about that too is Trouble kind of had the Christian thing going on. One of the most evil satanic black metal bands ever, Kraft, on their album Fuck the Universe. The best album they did, I think, in my opinion, and the best song on the album. I think it's called Thorn in the Planet's Side. They have a really like atonal dissonant intro, but then they go. Pretty close, man. Pretty close. All right. So, best riff of 1985. Trouble, Pray for the Dead from The Skull. But also, if this was dad riff energy, it would definitely be Dire Straits' Money for Nothing intro riff, even though they say bad words on that song. Okay. Man, I hope that all makes sense. Yeah. I don't want this to be some overly corny, like, oh, Nate Garrett quits big riff energy or whatever, because that's not what's happening. Feel very confident about our ability to get through this first step of this challenging situation that we're in. And the end of this first little chapter is going to be November or so. So hopefully I'll see y'all then. And either way, yeah, just know if I don't show up here, I'm working on a new album that's going to be hopefully everybody's favorite thing that we've ever done, because I know it's going to be mine, like by a long shot. All right. See ya. In the words of our dearly departed guy, God bless y'all, and I love you. Later.